Get this insulting scrap of paper out of my face before I shove it down your throat, Sloane. The dining room went deathly silent. I gripped the edge of the mahogany table so hard my knuckles turned white. Sloane didn't flinch. She just pushed the $8,500 check closer to me with a manicured finger. "Don't be dramatic, Jade," Sloane sneered, her voice dripping with artificial pity. "It's more than a forensic accountant makes in a month. Take the money, sign the waiver, and vanish. You don't belong here anymore." "I don't belong here?" I stood up, my chair screeching against the marble floor like a dying animal. I leaned over the table, looming over her. "This is my grandmother's house. My blood is in these walls. You've been here for 5 minutes and a marriage certificate, you gold-digging vulture?" "Watch your mouth!" My father, Garrison, barked from the head of the table. "Sloane is my wife. She took care of my mother while you were hiding in your high-rise office in Manhattan." I turned my fire on him. "Took care of her? You let this woman block my number. You let her fire the nurses I paid for. You're not a grieving son, Dad. You're a coward hiding behind a skirt." The storm outside the Hamptons estate was raging, but the hurricane inside was worse. I was vibrating with a primal, white-hot rage. For 2 years, I had been sidelined, gaslit, and slandered. Today, the day of Evelyn Blackwood's funeral, they thought they could finally bury me along with her. Caleb, my older brother, didn't even look up from his phone. He was adjusting his ring light, his face twisted into a fake pout. "Can you guys keep it down?" Caleb muttered. "I'm literally midstream. My fans are asking why my sister is being so toxic during a funeral." "Toxic?" I snapped, reaching over and slamming his phone face down on the table. "Our grandmother is cold in the ground, and you're chasing likes? You're 26 years old, and you still live on an allowance from a woman who isn't even your mother." "Hey!" Caleb shouted. "Sloane is the one making sure we have a future. You're just bitter because Grandma realized you weren't worth a dime in the will." "She wasn't senile," I hissed. "She was terrified, and I'm going to find out exactly what you three did to her." Sloane laughed, a sharp, metallic sound. She reached up and stroked the blue diamond pendant at her throat. My grandmother's midnight necklace. "You'll find nothing," Sloane said. "The will is ironclad. Garrison and I inherited everything. You get $8,500 because your father felt pity. Sign it, Jade, or I'll have security drag you out through the mud." The injustice was a physical weight. They had stolen my goodbyes, my inheritance, and now they wanted my dignity. "You think you've won?" I asked, a dark, jagged smile spreading across my face. "You think because you changed the locks, you own the Blackwood legacy?" "We do own it," Garrison said. "You're just a guest who has overstayed her welcome." "A guest?" I pulled my phone out. "I built the security infrastructure for this estate. I synced the smart home hub to a private cloud. You forgot that while I was staring at spreadsheets, I was ensuring this house sees and hears everything." Sloane's smirk faltered. "What are you talking about?" "The truth, Sloane. You're just a thief caught on high-definition camera." "Jade, shut up!" my father yelled, his face turning an ugly purple. "Make me!" I challenged. "But first, let's see what really happened in the kitchen 3 weeks ago. Let's hear what you said to Grandma when you thought no one was listening." I tapped the screen. The lights turned a blood-red hue, a setting I'd spent all night perfecting. The massive media wall flickered to life, showing the kitchen. "Caleb, stop the stream!" Sloane panicked. "I can't! The Wi-Fi is locked!" Caleb yelled. I'm the administrator now, I said, stepping closer to Sloane, watching the blood drain from her face. And the whole world, including your fans, is about to see the real you. The video began. Sloane's voice filled the room. Cold, mocking, and murderous. The show is just starting, I whispered. And trust me, the ending is a real killer. The silence in the room was now heavy, broken only by the distorted audio coming from the 98-inch screen. On the display, the kitchen of the estate looked clinical under the fluorescent lights. In the video, Sloane wasn't the grieving widow. She was a predator. She was holding a small mortar and pestle, grinding white pills into a fine, deadly powder. My grandmother, Evelyn, sat at the breakfast nook, her hands shaking as she reached for a glass of water. Drink it, you old bat! Sloane's voice echoed through the dining room, vibrating against the very walls she claimed to own. The sooner you forget where you hid the offshore keys, the sooner I can stop pretending to care if you breathe or not. Turn it off! Sloane shrieked, lunging toward me. I didn't move an inch. I didn't have to. As she reached for my phone, I sidestepped her with the grace of a matador. She stumbled, her expensive silk dress catching on the edge of a chair, and she sprawled onto the marble floor. Don't touch me, I said, my voice like a serrated blade. And don't bother reaching for the screen. It's a looped feed being broadcast directly to my firm's secure server. Every second you spend trying to hide this is another second the police spend building your file. Garrison stood frozen, his eyes glued to the screen as the video continued. He saw himself walk into the frame. He saw Sloane hand him the drugged tea, and most damning of all, he saw himself take it to his mother with a blank, indifferent expression. Dad, look at yourself, I spat, gesturing to the wall. You didn't just let her die. You were her delivery boy. Did she even recognize you at the end? Or was she too drugged to know her own son was her executioner? Jade, it wasn't like that, Garrison stammered, his face pale. We were just... She was in pain. We were helping her sleep. Helping her sleep? I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound that filled the room. You were helping yourselves to her accounts. I've seen the logs, Garrison. Within 10 minutes of her heart stopping, there were 3 wire transfers to a shell company in the Caymans. $2.5 million moved before the paramedics even arrived. Is that helping her sleep? Caleb was staring at his phone, his face drained of color. Guys, the chat is going insane. They're recording the stream. It's everywhere. Millions of views. Jade, you're ruining my life. My sponsors are gonna drop me. Your life? I turned on him, my eyes blazing with a fury so intense he actually recoiled. Our grandmother is dead because of the woman you're defending, and you're worried about your skincare sponsors? You're not just pathetic, Caleb. You're an accomplice. Sloane scrambled to her feet, her hair disheveled, the mask of the sophisticated Hamptons socialite completely shattered. The midnight necklace hung crookedly at her throat. This is deepfake technology, she screamed, her voice cracking. It's AI. You're a forensic accountant. You know how easy it is to manipulate data. You're framing us because you're a bitter, jealous brat who got cut out of the will. Framing you? I stepped closer to her, invading her personal space until she was backed against the window. The lightning outside illuminated the raw hatred in my eyes. I'm an expert witness in federal court, Sloane. I don't frame people. I find the trail they were too stupid to cover. You thought you were so clever, using my grandmother's iPad to authorize those transfers. But you forgot that every login has a geotag. You were sitting in this very room while she was dying in the hospital wing. I reached out and grabbed the blue diamond pendant. She gasped, trying to pull away, but my grip was iron. "And this?" I hissed. "This is the first piece of evidence. You didn't just steal her life, you stole her legacy." "But here's the funny thing about diamonds, Sloane. They don't lie. Only people do." I let go of the necklace with a shove. Sloane fell back against the glass, panting. "The police are already at the gate," I said, checking my watch. "I gave them the administrative bypass code 10 minutes ago. You have exactly 60 seconds to decide. Are you going to walk out in handcuffs, or am I going to let the world watch you crawl?" "You can't do this," Garrison whispered, his voice trembling. "I'm your father." "No," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "You're just another discrepancy I'm here to fix." The sound of sirens began to wail in the distance, cutting through the roar of the storm. The red lights of the dining room pulsed faster, like a heartbeat about to stop. "Chapter 1 was the betrayal," I whispered, looking at their terrified faces. "Chapter 2 is the audit. And trust me, your debt is coming due." The blue and red lights of the police cruisers strobed against the falling snow, turning the Blackwood estate into a crime scene. The sirens died down, replaced by the heavy thud of tactical boots on the porch. "Open the door," a voice boomed from outside. Garrison looked at the door, then at me, his eyes pleading. "Jade, please, we can talk about this. We can fix the will. You can have half, no, 70%. 30 pieces of silver, Dad?" I snapped, my voice dripping with disdain. "You're still trying to bribe me while the handcuffs are clinking in the hallway? You really don't know me at all." The oak doors burst open. Lead Detective Miller, a man I'd been feeding data to for weeks, stepped into the dining room. His eyes went straight to the screen where the video of Sloane drugging the tea was still looping in its crimson glow. "Sloane Blackwood? Garrison Blackwood?" Miller's voice was professional, cold. "You're under arrest for suspicion of elder abuse, conspiracy to commit murder, and grand larceny. Hands where I can see them." Sloane let out a harrowing shriek. "It's a lie! She's hacking the system! Garrison, do something!" But my father was paralyzed. 2 officers grabbed his arms, forcing him away from the table. As they pressed his face against the cold marble, he looked at me one last time. I didn't blink. I wanted him to see the reflection of his own cowardice in my eyes. Caleb was still sitting there, clutching his phone like a holy relic. "Officer, I'm not part of this. I'm a victim too. Look at my stream. I'm documenting the whole thing." "Shut it, kid," the officer grunted, snatching the phone from his hand. "You're coming down for questioning too." As they began to drag Sloane toward the foyer, she turned back, her face a mask of pure malice. "You think you've won, Jade? Fine. Put us in jail. But the money is still ours. The lawyers will have us out by morning, and I'll spend every cent of that $50 million ensuring you rot in a cell for hacking us." I walked slowly toward her, stopping just inches from her face as the officers held her back. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small blue audit folder. "That's where you're wrong, Sloane," I said, my voice a deadly whisper. "You spent so much time pretending to be a Blackwood that you forgot to check the fine print of the estate you were stealing." I opened the folder, revealing a series of bank notices stamped with the word "frozen." "While you were busy picking out your morning outfit, I filed a forensic injunction," I explained, enjoying the way her pupils dilated with terror. "Every account you touched, every wire transfer you sent to the Caymans has been flagged for money laundering. The IRS moved faster than the police. As of 10 minutes ago, the Blackwood accounts are at 0. "Zero?" Garrison choked out from across the room. That's impossible. There were millions. There were, I corrected. But Grandma Evelyn wasn't as senile as you thought. She didn't just give me the server access. She gave me power of attorney over her private trust, the one that holds the title to this house. You inherited the corporate accounts, Dad. But I inherited the debt. I leaned in closer to Sloane, a cold smile playing on my lips. This house is leveraged to the hilt. The stocks were sold months ago. You've been living on credit, and the bill just came due. You're not a millionaire, Sloane. You're a convict with a net worth of exactly nothing. I reached out and snatched the midnight necklace from her neck. The clasp snapped, but I didn't care. And this glass junk? I tossed it onto the floor, where it shattered into cheap, worthless shards. The real one has been in a vault in Manhattan for years. I swapped it the last time you let me in the house. You monster! Sloane screamed as they dragged her out the door. No, I called out after her. I'm just the one closing the books. I stood alone in the dining room, the red lights finally fading to black. The house was quiet, the vultures were gone, and for the first time in 2 years, I could breathe. Trong chương 4, Jade bắt đầu cuộc kiểm toán tàn khốc ngay trong đêm. Cô không chỉ dọn dẹp đống đổ nát mà còn phát hiện ra những bí mật kinh tởm hơn ẩn sau lớp vỏ bọc hào nhoáng của gia đình mình. The silence that followed the sirens was heavier than the storm. The mansion felt different now, less like a fortress, and more like a hollowed-out ribcage. The police had cleared out, taking the trash with them in handcuffs, but the stench of their greed still lingered in the air. I didn't go to sleep. I couldn't. Adrenaline was a toxic sludge in my veins. I walked into the study, Evelyn's sanctuary, and sat behind her massive oak desk. My laptop glowed in the dark, the fans whirring as it processed the final encrypted files I'd pulled from the house server. Let's see what else you were hiding, Sloane, I muttered, my fingers dancing across the keys. As a forensic accountant, I don't just see numbers. I see stories. And the story written in these ledgers was a horror film. I began to track the medical expenses Sloane had claimed over the last 6 months. $40,000 for experimental therapy. $15,000 for private consultations. I cross-referenced the names on the invoices. They didn't exist. The doctors were shell corporations registered to a P.O. box in Delaware. Sloane wasn't just killing my grandmother. She was billing the estate for the privilege. She was literally charging Evelyn for the poison. I felt a fresh wave of nausea hit me. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from Detective Miller. Garrison is cracking. He's blaming everything on Sloane, claiming she threatened to leave him if he didn't help. He's pathetic, Jade. But he did mention something about a safe deposit box in Jersey. Code name? The Willow. I frowned. The Willow. That was the name of the lullaby Evelyn used to sing to me. I dove back into the digital archives, searching for any mention of a box or a lease. 10 minutes later, I found it. But it wasn't a bank box. It was a digital vault. A dead man's switch, triggered by the total freeze of the estate's primary accounts. A video file appeared on my screen. It wasn't security footage this time. It was a direct recording from a webcam. My grandmother's face appeared. She looked frail, her skin like parchment, but her eyes, those sharp, piercing blackwood eyes, were clear. She was lucid. Jade, my darling girl, she whispered, her voice cracking. If you are seeing this, then the vultures have finally circled. I know you're angry. I know you feel like I left you to fight them alone, but I had to let them think they were winning. It was the only way to catch them both. I felt a lump form in my throat. I pressed my palm against the screen, wishing I could touch her hand. Garrison is lost, Jade. He chose his pride over his soul. And Sloane? Sloane is a ghost I invited in, hoping your father would see her for what she was. I failed in that, but I won't fail you. Look under the floorboard in the conservatory, near the jasmine plant. There is a ledger there that Sloane never found. The real ledger. The video cut to black. I grabbed a flashlight and ran toward the conservatory. My heart hammered against my ribs. I found the jasmine plant, its scent cloying and sweet. I ripped back the rug and pried at the wood with a letter opener until it gave way. There, wrapped in oilcloth, was a handwritten book. I opened it, and my breath hitched. It wasn't just a list of assets. It was a diary of every lie, every theft, and every moment of abuse Sloane and Garrison had inflicted. Evelyn had been documenting her own slow murder, day by day, pill by pill. She had turned herself into the ultimate piece of evidence. "You brave, brilliant woman," I whispered, tears finally blurring my vision. But as I flipped to the final page, a name jumped out at me. A name that wasn't Sloane or Garrison. It was a name of a high-ranking judge in the Hamptons. The man who would be presiding over their bail hearing tomorrow. The conspiracy was bigger than a family feud. It was a network, and I had just stepped into the center of the web. I stood up, clutching the book to my chest. My grief was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating resolve. They thought the audit was over. Chapter 4 is the discovery, I said to the empty, shadowed room. Chapter 5 is the execution. The handwritten ledger in my hands felt heavier than a lead brick. As I scanned the pages in the dim light of the conservatory, the name Judge Harrison Vance glared back at me. He wasn't just a family friend. He was the silent partner in Sloane's systematic stripping of the Blackwood fortune. Every legal fee that seemed inflated, every court-ordered appraisal that undervalued our properties, it all flowed back to Vance. He had provided the legal shield that kept me away from Evelyn for 2 years. So it wasn't just a domestic coup, I whispered, the cold air of the conservatory biting at my skin. It was a syndicate. I knew I couldn't go to the local precinct with this. If Vance was in deep, the local gears were already greased to protect him. I needed to move fast. In the world of finance, a trail stays hot only as long as the bodies are still in the morgue. By morning, files would start to disappear. I returned to the study and opened a hidden partition in my laptop's hard drive. I began to map the connection between Vance's offshore accounts and Sloane's shell companies. It was a beautiful, disgusting dance of numbers. $500,000 moved through a fake construction firm. $1 million laundered through an art gallery in Soho. Suddenly, the house's perimeter alarm chirped on my phone. I froze. My eyes darted to the security feed. A black SUV had pulled up to the gates. Not a police cruiser, but a private security detail. 2 men in tactical gear were stepping out, carrying specialized equipment to bypass the gate's electronic lock. Vance is cleaning house, I realized, my pulse hammering. They weren't here to talk. They were here for the ledger. And if they found me with it, I'd become another unfortunate accident in the Blackwood family history. I didn't panic. Panic is a luxury for the weak. I grabbed the ledger, shoved it into my blazer, and snatched my laptop. I didn't head for the front door. I headed for the basement. The one part of the house the smart system didn't fully monitor because of the thick stone foundations. As I descended the stairs, I heard the sound of the front door being breached. The heavy thud of boots echoed on the marble foyer above me. "Find her," a gravelly voice commanded. "And find that book. If she's still breathing when we leave, we're all dead." I tucked myself into a narrow crawl space behind the old wine cellar, my heart thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I pulled out my phone and sent one single encrypted burst of data to a contact in the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a man who owed my firm a massive favor. "The midnight audit is live. Check the Delaware routing numbers. I have the physical logs, sending coordinates now. Come heavy." I muted the phone and held my breath. Above me, the floorboards creaked. They were in the study now. They were throwing books, smashing drawers, searching for the ghost of Evelyn Blackwood's truth. "She's not here!" someone yelled. "Check the basement!" I gripped a heavy iron wine opener from the rack near my head. I wasn't going to be a victim. I had spent my life balancing books, but tonight, I was going to break them. "Come and get me, you bastards!" I hissed into the darkness. "Let's see how you handle a woman with nothing left to lose." Don't let greed kill your conscience. The price is never worth it. Stay independent and keep your guard up. Just live right so you can sleep with a clear mind at night. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Catch you in the next one.